The film opens with a man entering a dark basement. He discovers a charred rat that had been electrocuted by an exposed electrical cable. As he inspects the area further, he finds rat droppings scattered everywhere and spots several other rats hiding in the shadows. Furious and disgusted, he heads to a nearby convenience store to buy rat poison. Unfortunately, the poison is completely sold out. All that remains are ordinary rat traps. Left with no other choice, he buys a handful of them. Upon arriving home, he immediately sets up multiple traps around the basement. Satisfied with his work, he heads upstairs to get some rest. But just as he is about to reach his room, a woman calls out to him from one of the bedrooms. It turns out to be his mother. From their conversation, we learn that the man's name is Willard. He lives with his mother, who is severely ill, and his father passed away several years ago. Morning arrives. Willard wakes up and rushes to check the traps he had set the night before. Strangely enough, not a single rat has been caught. It is then revealed that Willard works at a manufacturing company. That morning, he hurries to the office, already several hours late. When he arrives, he finds that his desk has been taken over by a new employee named Catherine. A manager then informs him that their boss, Mr. Martin, wants to see him immediately. Willard walks into Mr. Martin's office feeling extremely nervous. His boss reprimands him for being late every day for the past week. Willard explains that he has been busy taking care of his seriously ill mother. During their conversation, it is also revealed that this company was originally founded by Willard's father. After his father's death, the business was taken over by his father's partner, Mr. Martin. Willard's constant tardiness has caused the company's sales to decline significantly, and Mr. Martin is absolutely furious. On his way home, Willard stops by the convenience store again and buys several glue traps for his next attempt. That night, he hears noises coming from the basement. He goes down and finds a white rat stuck to one of the glue traps. Willard initially intends to kill it, but something stops him. He feels a strange sense of pity. Instead of ending its life, he carefully helps the little creature free itself from the sticky trap. Willard feels an unexpected connection to the white rat and decides to name it Socrates. He then gently returns Socrates to its family in the basement. From that moment on, Willard begins feeding the rats not as pests to be eliminated, but as friends to be cared for. As Willard was about to return to his room, Socrates suddenly emerged from his nest. Touched by this gesture, Willard invited the rat to sleep beside him that night. The next morning, Willard arrived at the office late yet again. Having lost all patience, Mr. Martin trapped Willard inside the elevator before he could step out. With a smug expression, Mr. Martin boasted that he had just purchased the most expensive Mercedes in its class, sneering that lazy people like Willard would never be able to afford such luxury. Only successful men like himself could. Furious at his boss's cruelty, Willard was left locked alone in the elevator. Fortunately, Catherine, the new employee, came to his rescue and helped him get out. Later, troubled and deep in thought, Willard sat in his basement. He asked Socrates to tear up a newspaper he was holding, but soon, the other rats joined in as well. It became clear that Willard shared a unique bond with these creatures. Amidst them, he noticed one rat significantly larger than the rest and named him Ben. Over the following days, Willard began training his growing army of rats. He fed and cared for them like beloved pets while teaching them to run fast, tear objects apart, bite on command, and enter or exit bags at his signal. However, when Willard showed up late to work once more, Mr. Martin angrily deducted a full week's pay for his repeated tardiness. Enraged, Willard immediately looked up Mr. Martin's home address. That night, he gathered his rats into 2 large bags. Although he initially tried to prevent Ben from entering due to his size, the massive rat quietly sneaked in while Willard wasn't looking. Willard then headed to Mr. Martin's house. Upon arrival, he ordered the rats into the garage, and they obeyed instantly. When he opened the second bag, he was surprised to find only Ben inside. Though worried that Ben was too big to fit through the garage entrance, the powerful rat proved far stronger than the others and forced his way in. Willard's revenge was complete. All 4 tires of Mr. Martin's prized Mercedes were shredded beyond repair. The next day at the office, Mr. Martin's car was nowhere to be seen, and the entire staff laughed upon hearing what had happened to his luxury vehicle. Feigning innocence, Willard asked what was wrong, secretly thrilled with what his loyal rats had accomplished the night before. Willard woke up with a start, shocked to find Ben lying on his bed. Panicked, he chased the large rat and tried to hit him, but in the chaos, he realized his mother was nowhere to be found. Rushing to check the house, he froze in horror when he entered the kitchen. The room was swarming with countless rats. Confused and terrified, he wondered why the basement door had been left open. Tragically, he discovered his mother's lifeless body, surrounded and overwhelmed by the swarm. In a state of shock, Willard ordered the rats back into the basement. Soon after, the police arrived to remove his mother's body. Devastated and filled with despair, Willard confided in Socrates, lamenting that the white rat was now his only true friend. At the funeral, no one showed up to pay their respects except for Catherine. She approached Willard, expressing her concern and wanting to ensure he was okay. When Willard returned home, he found rats roaming freely throughout every room. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It was Catherine. Seeing how lonely and isolated Willard was, she gifted him an orange cat, hoping it would provide him with companionship. Reluctantly, Willard accepted the gift. However, the dynamic was unexpected. Instead of the rats fearing the cat was terrified of them. Given the overwhelming number of rats, the poor creature tried desperately to escape but was quickly cornered and killed by the swarm. Pushed to the brink by stress and grief, Willard felt he had nothing left. With both his parents gone, his father years ago, and his mother now taken by the very creatures he controlled, he attempted to take his own life. But just as he was about to end it all, Socrates intervened, stopping him. It seemed the little white rat truly cared for Willard. The next morning, Willard prepared to go to work, planning to bring Socrates along. Ben, however, insisted on coming too. Hearing what seemed like Socrates' approval, Willard allowed Ben to join them. At the office, he hid both rats in the storage warehouse before returning to his desk. There, he found a letter waiting for him. Confused, he asked Catherine to read it aloud. His heart sank. It was a termination letter. Furious and in disbelief, Willard stormed into Mr. Martin's office to confront him. Meanwhile, with Christmas approaching, the office manager instructed Catherine to retrieve the holiday decorations from the same warehouse where Socrates and Ben were hiding. However, Catherine declared that she could no longer bear working in such a toxic environment. She threw the warehouse keys at the manager and hurriedly left the office. Willard, who was in the midst of protesting his termination to Mr. Martin, didn't notice the manager attempting to enter the warehouse. Suddenly, a woman's scream echoed from within. It was clearly the manager. She cried out that there was a white rat inside. Without hesitation, Mr. Martin grabbed an iron bar and brutally beat Socrates to death. Willard stood frozen in shock as he watched his beloved companion being killed right before his eyes. Once the violence ended, Willard quietly offered to clean up the remains of the white rat. Consumed by rage, Willard's hatred for Mr. Martin doubled. Not only had his boss murdered his only friend, but he had also fired him. That night, Willard plotted his revenge. Together with Ben, he directed the entire rat colony into several large bags. Meanwhile, Mr. Martin remained late at the office, so preoccupied with his work and browsing inappropriate websites that he failed to notice the impending danger. When Willard arrived, he prepared everything meticulously. The sheer number of rats he brought was staggering. They nearly filled an entire elevator. Mr. Martin was initially confused when he clicked his computer mouse, only to realize with horror that actual mice were swarming into his office. Willard then entered, leading his army of rats. "You stole the company my father built," Willard accused, his voice trembling with fury. "You made me look like a fool in front of everyone. You made me hate myself. And worst of all, you killed Socrates, my only true friend." Mr. Martin fought back with a golf club, but as he tried to escape into the elevator, Ben dropped from above and bit deeply into his neck. Seizing the moment, Willard locked the elevator doors, a cruel twist of fate, mirroring how Mr. Martin had once trapped him inside. The swarm of rats then mercilessly devoured Mr. Martin. Yet, in a strange turn of events, Willard left Ben and the other rats trapped inside the elevator with their victim. Returning home, he locked the remaining rats in his basement. He then threw rat poison into the room, killing them all instantly. Willard burned their bodies and sealed every crack and crevice in his house, determined to ensure that no rats would ever enter his life again. The next day, Catherine's voice called out to Willard from outside. She brought shocking news. Mr. Martin had been found dead in his office. According to the reports, he had been attacked by unidentified animals. Willard said little in response, instead inviting Catherine to join him for lunch. He told her he just needed a moment to put on his coat. While waiting, Catherine felt an urgent need to use the restroom. Without telling Willard, she slipped into the bathroom. Meanwhile, Willard was preparing his coat when he noticed with horror that a hole he had previously patched in the wall was open again. Unaware of the danger, Catherine finished her business, oblivious to the swarm of rats lurking in the shadows of the bathroom. Sensing the impending disaster, Willard rushed to pull Catherine out of the house. They hurried to her car, only to discover that the tires had been slashed by the rats. Panicked, Willard dragged Catherine back inside, desperate to eliminate Ben and his colony before anyone discovered the truth. Suddenly, the rat swarm turned on Willard. Cornered and terrified, he tried to deceive Ben. He offered a bag, claiming it was filled with food for Ben and his friends. In reality, it was a trap. Willard managed to catch Ben inside, snapping a mousetrap shut on the large rat. However, the rest of the swarm immediately launched a fierce attack on Willard. Miraculously, Ben escaped the trap, though he lost a toe in the process. Terrified, Willard scrambled toward a window, screaming for Catherine's help. But Catherine, perhaps finally realizing the dark truth about Willard and his strange behavior, looked at him with cold detachment. Without a second thought, the woman who had once been so kind to him turned and walked away, leaving him to his fate. Desperate, Willard tried to escape through the attic, but there he encountered Ben once more. The massive rat lunged forward, biting Willard's face. Screaming in pain and fear, Willard lost his balance and fell backward, plummeting into the seething mass of rats below.